The Brexit hangover games continue in Brussels, and the UK is simulating how to keep traffic off Dover. EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen seemed relieved when she said in Brussels on Sunday afternoon that trade talks with Great Britain would continue. It was responsible for both sides to go an extra mile in the talks, she said, and in other words, it was still unclear on Sunday whether an economically devastating no deal was imminent or not. And how much time both sides will need to cover the mile summoned by the head of the Commission was also completely open. Von der Leyen had previously phoned the British Prime Minister Johnson and sounded out whether it would be worthwhile to continue the negotiations. The EU chief negotiator Michel Barnier and his British counterpart David Frost had looked for a rapprochement from Saturday to Sunday until midnight and continued their talks on Sunday morning. In the meantime, the talks had looked like an imminent failure. In London at the weekend it was said that 4 British Navy patrol ships would be ready for action from January 1st to push EU trawlers off the high seas and carry out inspections if necessary. A failure of the negotiations would mean that fishermen from France, Ireland or the Netherlands would have to stay away from British waters. However, it's doubtful whether the EU or Great Britain are fully prepared for a no deal with all its consequences. And I'm sure the EU is better prepared, but nobody can be prepared for every little detail there. It's so complex, it hits so many areas that I'm quite sure not even the EU is 100% prepared. And I admit that. I'm not one of the stubborn guys on some other channels I won't name here, and I'll never want to name them here. At the weekend, the British media published pictures of Operation Brock. The exercise on the M20 motorway in the county of Kent in the southeast of the country aims to test how traffic can be maintained despite expected truck traffic jams in front of the port of Dover. The test makes sense in any case, whether a deal comes about or not, because truck drivers are likely to be first to feel the consequences after Great Britain leaves the EU internal market and the customs union. Even if Brussels and London reach a trade deal at the last minute and thus prevent the levying of tariffs on car parts or agricultural products, for example, the bureaucratic effort on both sides increases. Truck drivers heading for the port of Dover or the Eurotunnel near Folkestone on the island in future will need a so-called Kent Access Permit, a kind of simplified customs declaration. The imminent end of Great Britain's membership in the EU internal market is already causing truck traffic jams on the continent. For 2 weeks, freight forwarders have had to expect traffic jams in front of Calais in France because there are currently a particularly large number of trucks on the way to the island. And what's the reason for that? British traders are starting to hoard goods from the continent out of the fear that imports will become more expensive. According to the French broadcaster Europe 1, an increased number of trucks heading for Great Britain just before Christmas is nothing unusual. This time, however, more will be bought on heap than usual, reported the broadcaster. In any case, on Sunday in Brussels, once again, what was supposed to be the very last deadline was thrown overboard when von der Leyen announced the continuation of the talks. This time, unlike usual, no new deadline was set, but the constant postponements could also be part of a buck-Peter game. Neither the UK nor the EU wants to be accused of leaving the negotiating table and being responsible for the failure of the talks. On the other hand, if the will for an agreement actually exists, a conclusion would theoretically still be a possible thing on December 31st. Then the trade pact would have to be applied provisionally against the will of the EU Parliament without parliamentary ratification. I really don't like that one, but it is a theoretical solution of the whole thing. However, it would also be conceivable to extend the deadline beyond December 31st for ratification. You would need some tricks there, like a thing of a implementation period or whatever, because legally an extension of the transition period is not possible anymore. I don't see that to be working. That would need a lot of fantasy in the House of Commons for that. Brexit also played a marginal role on Sunday when the hard lockdown was announced in Berlin from next Wednesday. Chancellor Angela Merkel said that it goes without saying that we should try everything to get a result. However, she pointed out one of the crucial sticking points. In view of the UK's departure from the EU internal market, one must ensure that fair competitive conditions continue to prevail if the legal situation between the UK and the EU continues to diverge over time. This point of contention is referred to in the Brussels negotiating jargon as divergence. The question is to what extent Great Britain may in future deviate from applicable environmental, occupational safety and social standards of the EU, and at what point countermeasures by the EU, and that means punitive tariffs on British goods, would take effect. Great Britain does not want to allow such countermeasures and argues that this is an interference with national sovereignty. By contrast, the EU wants to arm itself against unfair competition from Great Britain. In EU circles, it was said on Sunday that the question of the future divergence in environmental and social standards was by no means the only open issue. And if you now want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel, visit my other two channels. I'll see you in my next video. Viel Spaß!